Sketching outdoors is a lot of fun, and I am outside David Hunt Tools in Knoll Hill, and I've driven past here so many times, so you'll hear the A4 in the background. But I thought this would be a great subject. I love the flagpole, I loved the hammer and what's that, spanner and everything. Thought this would make a really nice subject. Also, rather like this pole up here with all the wires, so I might just have to shift that over so I can include it in the sketch.
This is to prove that I really did sit outside to sketch, and this was my glamorous setup. But this sort of sketching isn't meant to be perfect and wonderful, it's just meant to be for the joy of doing it and being there. And this is my final sketch after I got home. But hey, I do look as if I rather enjoyed myself, didn't I?
So just before we start sketching, let me introduce you to the materials I've got. Using this really nice concertina sketchbook from Hannah Muller, and it's got watercolour paper in. I think it's 300 GSM. And this is the sort of thing that I'm doing as we sketch. If you are using a concertina book like that, bulldog clip is terribly useful just to keep everything from falling apart. But the reason I like the concertina sketchbook is you can do 1 page, 2 pages, or even 3 in sort of panorama. I've also got these fine line liners, that's in a 0.2. I've got them in a few different widths. I keep my little sketching kit together in one of these bags. They're actually bags for life that you put your bananas in or whatever. You can just get them from, there you go, Sainsbury's as the case may be, but I think all the supermarkets do the sort of bags for life. Very crucial bit of kitchen towel. A little paint set, so this is a Rosa one that we'll come to in a moment. And I've got some of these dual tip markers. These are from Smith's, but they are basically a cheap version of Tombows. And you can get a grey set, which is perfect for adding tone and shadow without adding lots of extra water to your sketch. I've got a water brush. So the water goes in the handle. If you haven't used these before, they always unscrew the wrong way. So if you can't get yours open, they unscrew the wrong way. Just try the other way. And that just saves bringing a pot. I've got a little spray bottle if I need. And I think that's about it. I believe in travelling light. If you bought an easel and, I don't know, a full set of your watercolours and all those things, you probably wouldn't ever do this. We're only sketching, it's not a super duper finished piece that we're trying to do. So travel light and improvise. So I haven't got a pencil and an eraser, but the great thing is if you use the bullet nib on the end of this, we've got a brush nib there, bullet on the other. This dissolves totally in water, so you can do your drawing and it'll disappear into your painting later. And the thing with a pen is that it makes you decisive. It stops you dithering. I am going to be brave and just go straight in with a pen. Of course, if you want to use a pencil, if you say, oh no, that's just too scary, then use a pencil. There are no rules. It's just the way I do it. And if I get some sort of big shapes in at this point, make sure it all fits on the paper, that will be a good thing to do. So I'm doing big shapes. We've got coming down here, I love all the brushes and brooms and goodness knows what that's in the middle. Love that flagpole. So I'm going to put that in, and I am going to bring forward that telegraph pole here and just bring it so it's in shot and those two sort of frame. Hello. Just got a group of walkers going by, and luckily no one came over to see what I was doing, because usually they come over when your drawing is looking at the muckiest, most awful, and you're like, come back when it's finished, it'll look better, I promise you. But they always come just when it's looking really, really poor. So there's some sort of cutout of a compressor up here. We've got the big sign there. We've got another sign here, woodworking machinery and hand tools at competitive prices. I did talk to the guys before I set myself up. Tools are very stealable and I didn't want them to think I was casing the joint. And they were lovely. They asked if I wanted to use one of their ladders to sit on. So there's a window there, big wide window here. And then I'm going to have, will I put the bollards in front? Yeah, I guess they've got these bollards to stop it being ram raided, which is a sad indictment. But the bollards are actually quite fun because, again, I'm starting to enjoy these verticals and then these bollards. There's an open sign here I'll probably miss. Loving the yellow buckets and things with the yellow signage. And I'm quite enjoying just the verticals of that old TV aerial. Say here, this should actually be taller and I have shrunk it down to fit in. And I'll put in all those wires, so that's good. Yep, that's all I need to do. Now I'm grabbing my 0.3 pen. I am going to start, where am I going to start? I'm going to start with that flagpole. Because I like that flagpole. Which way? I think it would be better if the flag is blowing out this way. It's we'll wait till it's blowing out and we'll just catch it. I think that would be quite fun. So it is the 4th of July at the moment. It's election day in the UK and obviously Independence Day in America. So happy Independence Day if you're celebrating, but I won't get this edited and on YouTube for probably a couple of weeks, to be honest. So let's get this sign. That's really important. Oops. So I'm working in layers. I've sort of mapped out what I want to do, and then I'm coming in with my fine liner and going to put in not a lot of detail at this point, but just go over some of the lines. But I'm challenging my drawing. So if I looked at it at the moment and thought, oh, I've got those proportions totally wrong, or I've missed this or I've missed that, I can put it in. I don't have to be beholden to those lines. I do want to keep this quite loose. I don't want it to be all tight. So a great way of doing that is to do a continuous line drawing. So basically you don't take your pen off the page and you let it travel around and sort of capture. Oh dear, that's because I was talking and looking at the building rather than actually looking at my page. But when you are drawing, you should be looking at your subject infinitely more frequently than you're looking at your paper. I mean, a building's not going to run away, but say you were drawing people or animals or things like that, they are going to move off. So you want to cement as much into your memory as possible while they're actually in front of you, rather than spend all your time looking at your paper. So that will certainly be one of my top tips, is spend more time looking at the subject and less time looking at your paper. And if a line goes wonky, does it matter? Well, there's some nice sort of roof tiles here. Let's get some of those, or ridge tiles I should say. They make a bit of interest. We'll put those in there. I'm not sure I am going to put the sign, that cutout compressor, but what I am definitely going to do is put the giant spanner and hammer in here, because hey, they're really fun. Now, I have moved that over a bit. I'm not drawing it exactly where it should be. And it's just so it overlaps with this sign. So that is a deliberate decision. And again, I don't think I'm going to put the big cutout of the drill in. I think that's going to be too fiddly for the sort of style of my drawing. Now I'm just sat by the edge of the road in a parking space quite deliberately, because in my experience people just love to come and park in front of you when you're drawing. Usually it's an HGV. Oh, oh, that is such funny timing. There is always someone. There isn't any chance you could just move a little bit further there. I'm just, if I, no, oh, thank you so much. I was literally just saying someone always parks in front of you and then you came. Thank you. Well, there you go. That was just to prove. And I have to say, people aren't usually that nice and don't usually move. Oh, so faith in human nature has been restored. That was funny. You think I paid him to do that, but that was spontaneous, I promise. So where were we? We were just getting the big shapes in, weren't we? And I am adjusting. I said that I adjust as I go along. I don't think I've got this quite long enough. There's a sort of a black edge to the building. So let's get that in. And then let's get some of these windows in. Now, you can see that none of my lines are straight, are they? I think something got windy, so I think the camera may be moving around just to prove that this is absolutely live. But I have got my foot firmly on the bottom of the tripod, so hopefully it won't fall over. If there's a big crash, I would be quite sad. Ooh, even by my standards, these are very wonky windows. But you know, is someone going to come and say, oh, your windows are super wonky, oh, there are more panes of glass in there than you've put, or fewer, or whatever? Well, hopefully not. And if they do, are they my sort of people? No, they're not. Let's get some of these wonderful brooms that they've got out for display so that I don't forget there. There's a fine collection of brooms and rakes. We've just bought a new garden brush, otherwise I would be taking one of those home with me. These are huge, these ones. Look how long they are. So let's get some of those there. We need to get some of those buckets, lovely yellow buckets here. Now, they're all overlapping and you can obviously see some of those. Let's put some more buckets over here. They're not actually over there, but I'm loving the buckets so much that I think this shop needs more buckets. Let's put some of those grass rakes in and we'll pop those hanging there, and then some sort of lawn rake thing here, and it's just to remind me. And then I've got that, oops, my pen is running out. Oh, that's annoying. Oh no, just turn it over. Well, I thought my fine liner was running out there. And of course, that can happen. You're out and about, something runs out. And as I say, you will, oh, someone else is going to park in front. Please don't be nice. Oh no. Ah, they've reversed. Bless them. It is double yellow lines in front of me, so they shouldn't actually be parking there. I'm losing my way a bit. I thought it was going to be really quiet here. The guys in the shop said that they're having a really quiet day. They say it is election day, so maybe that's why. But suddenly everyone's coming. Well, perhaps I'm a good luck charm for them, encouraging everyone to come to the shop and buy their power tools. So that's the gist of that. And now I'm going to add some watercolour. I'm going to do this all quite a lot of yellow and red. So we've obviously got the yellow of the signage, which is really nice. So let's splosh on some yellow. Got the yellow of that signage, and I'll take it up here. And then that yellow comes down into the buckets here. So we're thinking about a bit of a story going on and getting the eye to travel round. And I think some yellow handles of the brooms over there would be rather a good idea. The kitchen towels, you squeeze your brush and just rinse it off. Now somewhere in here I have a little pan, ooh, there we go, of burnt sienna. The set didn't come with burnt sienna, which is very silly. I didn't need burnt sienna. So I'm going to get some burnt sienna on here and a little over here. And then we can bring some of the burnt sienna down maybe into some of these handles here. And then I think, because I'm rather liking the red, should we have a red bucket as well? There isn't a red bucket, but there jolly well should be. And I just think it looks so jolly. They were so nice when I went in there that I think that red and yellow is really rather fun. And then I can pick up the red over on the flag, and I might, right, this is where I'm going to splash. Now, this looks an utter mess. This is when people come and look at what you're doing and they sort of go, oh, lovely dear. But I reckon we can try and get past this stage fairly quickly. I shall be a lot happier. And we could just do something like that. And I think I'll just bring in those black bollards and definitely just come in here, pull that together, and then we've got the black sort of mock Tudor going on here. There's some lines, and I think maybe just put some, oh, my sketchbook is blowing away. So it's quite fun to sort of join bits of colour and together so that it all goes for a walk together. Maybe just take some of that red up. And I am fond of a few splatters just to loosen things up and keep your eye going around the page. Got to be aware that those splatters will take ages to dry. Once I've done that, so we've done the layer of pen, we've done the layer of fine liner, a bit of colour, we need to think about some shade, and I'll show you how these work. So we use the bullet nib instead of pencil for our underdrawing, but let's use the brush nib, and they are just great for putting in panes of glass like this. Such a quick way of doing that. And we can just get our windows in. There's some window action going on over here. And again, was it Ian Fenley, who's just a brilliant urban sketcher? He always says life is too short to count windows, and I am so with him. You know, the house needs some window action, but whether there's 20 windows or 15. I don't think we're going to count, are we? Or however many panes of glass here. So, say brush pen is a great way of starting to add in those windows, and I might just put in a little bit under the steps. So that will be our sort of next layer. And actually, while I'm here, I rather like how you've got this welcoming path here, but then it sort of slopes away. You've got this really square building, but then it all sort of slopes away, and we've got some scraggly grass here, which is quite fun. So why don't we do some of that and get that path in? And we've got sort of a curbstone. So details closer to you, less detail further away, and that just gives a little air of depth and distance. I'm not trying to get a lot of perspective and distance in this particularly, but I think that just gives the idea that it's set in some sort of context. And I quite like that that's on a slope with this very solid, sensible building in the middle. Let's get this incredibly important name in. I wouldn't usually put much writing in, but it's so big, and because obviously I guess they want everyone going past on the road to see them here, that I think that's, we better get that in. I love this power tools. So I say usually it doesn't all have to be legible, and say the sign that goes under here which says woodworking machinery and hand tools at competitive prices, I think we can just have some sort of indication that there might be some writing, because that's not important. Most of that is dry. So now we can start to crisp things up and put a little more detail. I'm going to put tops to the bollards, maybe a few lines to show they're round. That's still wet there. If you try and put your pen over a wet area, it won't work. So you just need to scribble until the ink starts flowing again. I don't think I'm going to do these little patches of grass green. They're very dry. I might put some yellow ochre or something on them if I think they need it. And I'm going to put some leading lines in just to sort of to draw our eye in. Now I want to sort of crisp up around here. There's some lovely signage. Do like a good sign. There's a arrow to the car park or whatever. There's a bent arrow there. So that might be worth putting in. I might, oh, there's some more trolleys and things that they're selling here. Can't really see them terribly clearly, but let's just pretend that there's something going on there. Just want the idea of lots of things outside, all the goods for sale. So much nicer shopping in a place like this rather than going to big DIY sort of superstore, isn't it? Because I bet if you needed to ask their advice on something, another bollard that I managed to miss out, they would, bet they'd know their onions, so to speak, and they'd be able to tell you everything. There's some sort of spotlight, or it might be a security camera here, which is quite nice. So let's pop that in. We've got the guttering coming up there. Let's put in some ridge tiles here. And there's some tiles going along. If I put those in, it'll make it more obvious that the sign is standing in front of it. So it's got this sort of mock wood going on. Oh, I haven't got my hammer in very well. Might put some blue in that handle actually. I think a few touches of blue would be fun in this. I'll just right, got our ridge tiles. Something poking up there. I'm not going to put every roof tile in either, but just putting in an indication that something's going on like that. A few more brooms and what's that, garden rake or something, isn't it? So let's get our buckets looking a little more buckety. So I'm dotting around the picture, not finishing any bit of it off specifically, so that it's all roughly at the same level of development. So if I had to stop now because it suddenly started to rain, or I just got fed up, or I don't know, whatever, then I would have basically got everything to a similar level of finish, because there's no point having one area perfect and finished and another area not even drawn in. Get some of those wonderful, don't usually see this many electric cables in this country. I love it when you're abroad and you see these tangle of electric cables and you're like, oh, that looks like a mess. But so it's quite unusual to see such a tangle of cables coming off one here, but there definitely is. Goodness knows what's going on. Let's get some of those, and then one goes from here right to this. Where does that go? To that far corner. One going right across, goodness knows where. There's one going behind the flagpole, and there's one looping up, whoops, to there, and then they do go off. I wouldn't usually put lines going off out of the picture, but I think we have to. I think time for a little more colour. Say, I do feel this needs to sort of be grass, but definitely not super green grass. Just a bit of grass there. And now I've just grabbed some blue. Maybe that blue would be better. Just going to pop a few spots of blue in. And might even some blue through here. The flagpole is white, but I'm going to put some blue and join this up because I felt it was looking a bit lost on its own. Well, don't usually bother with sky. I think that will help tie it together. So you are allowed to make things up and sort of tell your own story with it. I might just put something to imply that something else is going on around here. But I'm not going to do it, if that makes sense. I'm not actually going to put anything more complicated than that in. Okay, so again, that was your next layer, and now we need to tone down. Once that's dry, I'm going to come in and put some tone in with these pens. I think that will be the good thing to do. Maybe just put a bit on here. If you don't like what you've done, the good thing about these pens is they are totally water soluble, so you can just spread it out. And I am deliberately doing this muckily because that's how I want it. Just right, the sun is coming from here, so this is going to be slightly darker. This is quite dark under there. Let's get that giant spanner going on. And I'm just dotting around with these various shades of grey, so a paler grey could be a way of just putting in some hint of roof tiles without it being overly specific. This is all a bit more in shadow under here. That's in shadow under there. That'll help that sort of stand out a bit more. That's in shadow. There we go. I'm feeling this, even by my standards, this is looking pretty messy, so I'm going to sort of try and put a few neater details in just to stop it all being too mucky. So I'm sorting out this front windowsill in. And I could make some of these panes a little bit darker because windows are always a bit like the eyes. They glint. They are the eyes of the building, and they sort of glint and add life to it. Right, this should have dried a bit more now. So again, just trying to bring that forward. Some scrappy bits of grass just to show that is grass. Putting some edges of the building. I hadn't put that in. So there's a sort of, the more you look, the more you start to see. You'd have just looked at this and thought, oh, it's a square building with a big spanner on the outside. And then you start to look and you start to notice things. And that is really the joy of sketching like this, it's to make you look and see. It's not to get some beautiful finished drawing that you can put in a picture frame and show to, everyone when they come round. It is to practice your observation skills. It's to practice doing things really quickly, because say you never quite know what's going to happen when you're drawing outside and someone's just parked in front of me. I just don't know why they do it. Anyway, luckily I've sort of finished with that bit. There's a nice bit of guttering here that I hadn't put in, so let's put that in. There's a sort of wall that's coming on here. Actually, it's quite a nice sort of bit that leads your eye in. So we'll do that. Quite like that. Can't see over here because someone's just parked their car in the way. You'll have some nice little shadows of these bollards, and I'd imagine they go on round here. We have actually got a really nice shadow. This, I can't quite see how far it goes. Although, so say these pens are great for putting shadows in. What else do we want to do? Maybe get that up there. Do we want to do much more than that? Sure we do. Kind of feel maybe it needs something behind here, because in the distance you've got lots of, it backs onto farmland. That's why it's such an incongruous place for having a tool shop. We're in the little village on a very busy road that just goes straight through, but it goes onto farmland, and it's such a strange place. Oh good, the person who's parked their car is just going. Oh, blooming time. Once you find yourself going over lines time and again, it's probably time to stop. And I feel that that's what I'm doing. That I'm just sort of faffing around and fiddling and not adding anything extra. So you just need to know when to stop. And I can always go home. I've taken a photo. I usually would suggest taking a photo of what you're painting, just in case it starts to rain or something happens. But I wonder if it would be time for me to stop, and I can look at it with fresh eyes when I get home. Just put that green that I said about. So I think it probably is time for me to stop and look at this when I get home and just think, oh, do I need to add in any more? Just do a little red handle. I'm just popping in a few bits and bobs there. Yeah, do you know what? I am at the fiddling stage, so let's stop. Not going to bother with the sky. I've kind of implied other stuff going on. It looks really bright and jolly, which it is. I think I'm going to stop there, say, look at it when I get home, and just work out whether I've done enough. But I think I probably have, to capture this rather, well, it's an institution locally, this strange tool shop. I bet if you were in the trade would be just such a mecca for you. Okay, Ad, I'm done.
So the next day, all I did was lift a little bit of colour on the left-hand side of the building and add a little bit of grey behind the flag and behind the roof. In total, this would have taken about 45-50 minutes.